So, a very special guest joining us here today in the Junction Center, and a guy that's been around for a very long time: singer, songwriter, guitarist, author, pastor, frontman for the Resurrection Band for quite a long time. Did I miss anything, Glenn?
Grandpa.
Grandpa, I missed Grandpa.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Glenn Kaiser is joining us here in the studios today. Glenn, it's such a treat to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, pleasure, Terry.
Back in 1971, hard rock gospel music was virtually unheard of. You could just about count on one hand the folks that did that type of music.
Yep.
How did you folks wind up going in that direction?
Well, that's where I came from. I mean, I was like 2 weeks before my 18th birthday when I came to ask Jesus into my life, and it was really the beginning of the end of my own addictions. For about 6 years, I did every drug you could do except run up needles, and right on the edge of full-blown alcoholism at that point as well. And so the bands that I had played in up until that time, I started in blues, like I said, R&B, a bit of soul music and so on, for quite a while. Discovered Hendrix, morphed into really intense, what was then called acid rock, really intense rock, and early heavy metal, and hard rock, all blues-based all the time. That's just kind of where I was coming from. And then here I am, some months later, my life's been changed, right? And I'm thinking there are other people out there that are still just trying to figure out why they're on the planet, and caught up in some of the same addictions and stuff. And the punchline for me was, Jesus says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. What's inside is going to come out eventually. And so what am I going to do? And there were some needs in that community among the students, up in the Milwaukee area, throughout Chicago, the Midwest. So many doors open for concerts and stuff, and people had heard where I'd come from. I didn't join the fellowship as a musician. I just showed up because I needed help and I needed to get healed, And it was a little bit of a tag, you're it thing, So I started doing acoustic stuff because I didn't know what else to do. They asked me to sing here, sing there, do this in a coffee house, this and that. And I realized that the average kid in the street could care less about this kind of music. It's just way too mellow. And so we talked and prayed about it. And, Petra, early days for Petra, there was a three-piece group that was, I don't think they were that great, but what they did was amazing, called Agape. And I think they might have pronounced it Agape, out in the San Francisco Bay Area. Kind of a Hendrixy kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. But there were, and Wilson McKinley, that were a Pacific Northwest up by Seattle, Spokane area. There were only a handful of Christians doing authentic rock. And of course, I've come out of Zeppelin at that point, right? And Sabbath and what was then the heaviest stuff going. And it just made sense. We can do this authentically, and we can write about important things, and we can express love for the Lord, but also we can talk specifically about issues that even sometimes the church doesn't want to talk about, that are common on the street, And so everything from the failure of success, as I said, apartheid, songs about racism. I wrote a song called "The Chair" about a guy confined to a wheelchair and how people look down their nose at him and almost don't want to be around him because they're afraid they might catch what he's got. Very different sorts of writing, and of course, reading through the Psalms. Man, a lament is the biggest category in the Book of Psalms. 57 of the 150 Psalms are Psalms of lament. So, struggle, temptation, enemies, battles. The real world, the real world. And so writing those sorts of songs in a really aggressive rock, blues-based, hard rock format, it was just amazing how people just... Plus, they either paid attention or left, you know what I mean? You get Marshall Stacks and you're hitting 280 dB. I mean, either you listen or you leave kind of thing. So we did a lot of outdoor shows, and you name it, everything from clubs to festivals to whatever.